All right. We're back on the record in State versus Joseph Ferlazzo Jr., 21 CR 8967. I think we're up to the part in sentencing where you'll read whatever letters you want to read into
Judge.
evidence.
So we do, and I submitted, have several letters that from people who have known Mr. Ferlazzo and wanted to tell the court their experiences with him as a person. So I'll start with Jason Lang. I first met Joseph and immediately felt comfortable. Little did I know we would hit it off and he'd become my best friend and brother. His mellow demeanor and personality made him easy to talk with. And I found that the more we shared, the more we had in common. Our passion for riding motorcycles sealed the deal. I was hooked, and this guy complemented my life and helped expand my knowledge in many areas. Over the years, our friendship was, I think that's a typo, was more. He became the younger brother I never had. We were fortunate to share the road together riding motorcycles. The countless hours of tattoo sessions, paren, he gave me my first one, a day I will never forget, close paren, where we'd talk about anything and everything. There was no working at it, it just flowed. Our connection has never been explainable, but it's real. I don't often let people in, and with Joseph I welcomed him into my family, and that meant something to all of us. Joseph has always been fun and great to have around. I hold on to the moments we've shared, the memories we've made, and simply I miss him. Sincerely, Jason Lang. And the next is from his wife, Sarah. When I think of Joseph, I think of a fun, adventurous, nature-loving, peaceful individual. He exudes carefree confidence, and I've always admired his spirit. I enjoyed his company, and it was okay to sit in silence or talk about anything. He'd take the time to listen to you. His positivity and the way he can comfort you is a way everyone should strive to be in life. He always finds a way to push you to be a better version of yourself, which I've appreciated over the years. Joseph has always been a giver in our family. His advice on anything, ranging from motorcycles, cooking, books to read, places to travel to, or landscaping ideas have been valued, cherished, and if you will, much like my husband, I will miss him. Sincerely, Sarah Lang. And I have a letter from Elizabeth Trombley, to whom this letter may concern. My name is Elizabeth Ann Trombley. I am almost 26 years old. I've known Joseph Ferlazzo for approximately 13 years through his endeavors and passion for tattoos and piercings. I remember meeting Joseph when I was 13. He was an apprentice for body art, tattoo, and piercing in Burlington, Vermont, when my adoptive dad approved my first piercing, a hoop, on my bottom lip. Since then, I continued to go to body art for all of my work. I ended up getting 20 piercings and 24 tattoos throughout those 13 years. My dad did a lot of security work up in Burlington before I was brought into this world, and always taught me about the dangers it came with. I always brushed it off like it was nothing, until there were times when it wasn't nothing. Whenever I felt like I was in danger, I knew I could run up the stairs to body art, and Joseph, Tony, and Alex kept me safe. To this day, my dad and I cannot thank them enough. I knew I was safe in his presence. The Joseph I know today is the same Joseph I knew and loved 13 years ago, And the same Joseph I'm going to love for the rest of my life. He turned my body into his canvas and made me appreciate the body I hated for so many years, struggling with anorexia and physically abusive relationships. Then I have a letter from a former cellmate of Mr. Ferlazzo, named Nicholas Mora, to whom it may concern. I am writing this character reference for Joseph Ferlazzo, whom I solely knew as a cellmate in 2024. First, I must apologize for the lateness of this submission. I've struggled significantly with this assignment. It built up in my mind over time, and I find myself conflicted about how to approach this. However, I feel it is important to share my honest impressions of Joseph, as I believe my appraisal of his character is accurate. When I first met Joseph, I had heard things about him that shaped my expectations, rumors and assumptions that, to put lightly, reflected upon him in a negative light. However, once I got to know Joseph on a personal level, I was shocked by how starkly different he was from those initial impressions. He proved to be the epitome of level-headed and rational. During our time as cellmates, Joseph demonstrated a genuine commitment to bettering himself. Of all the individuals I met in prison, he was the least substance abusing and the most focused on personal growth, though I acknowledge that in the context of prison, this might seem like a low bar. What stood out to me most was his honesty and openness. Joseph shared a great deal with me about his life and experiences, showing a level of transparency that I believe others in his situation might not have offered. This honesty allowed me to see him in a new light, and I came to appreciate his character in ways I did not expect. Should you require any further details, I would be willing to adjust or expound on anything I have shared here. Sincerely, Nicholas Mora. The next is from Sarah Lefebvre. A lot of people look at Joseph Ferlazzo and see a giant of a man, but I see a little boy who just wants to be loved. For a man who seems so sure of himself, he really is not. I met Joseph about 8 years ago when I walked into a tattoo shop for the very first time in my life. He sat behind the counter staring at his phone with an occasional glance up to see what we were up to. We quickly became friends and started hanging out, having dinner, watching movies. It was fun and stress-free, just two friends being exactly who they were. Joseph pushed me out of my comfort zone and was up for any adventure that I expressed. A random weekend to go to Boston Aquarium, teaching me to swim, sleeping on the balcony in the middle of September, going to the beach. A quick text that said, "Dinner? Just two friends enjoying each other's company." Joseph and I have laughed together, cried together, and have supported each other through life's challenges. He was there for me when my mom passed away, and we cried together, remembering who she was to us. And we cried together again a short time later when my niece was killed in a car accident at just 25 years old. Joseph is a kind, compassionate soul who finds a light within everyone. He loves everybody. He's not one to hold a grudge. He has the mindset of go with the flow. Joseph always makes you feel welcomed and part of the group. Joseph has a love for everything, but especially dogs. I always wanted a dog, but never got one, because I didn't find it fair to the animal to leave it alone for so much of the day while I worked. So Joseph always shared his dogs with me. He would let me take them for walks or for the weekend just so I could cuddle with them. He would always tell me, "They love you the most." That was nice to hear. I even named his dog Remington. Joseph is my best friend, and even though we have had our ups and downs, our relationship is strong enough to get through the challenges. I have a tattoo on my back that says, quote, "You can't just give up on someone because the situation is not ideal." Great friendships aren't great because they have no problems. They're great because both people care enough about the other person to find a way to make it work, close quote. So even though this situation is not ideal, I care enough about my best friend. This one tragic incident does not define someone's whole life. Joseph is a kind and caring soul who made a horrible decision. He's always going to be my best friend, and I will always be here for him. And then the last letter I have is from Ivana Dober. I met Joseph Ferlazzo in 2016 when I walked into a tattoo shop, ready to get a memorial tattoo for my grandfather. Joseph was kind and professional, letting me share stories about my grandfather and distracting me by making me laugh. After this first experience with him, I continued to visit him for tattoos and piercings for many years. I referred him to many of my friends, male and female, who were always drawn to his kind and bubbly personality, which paired perfectly with his incredible artistic abilities. Joseph knew how to make everyone feel comfortable, even if the tattoo session itself brought physical discomfort or triggered mourning, and that's mourning. He was real. His jokes, stories, and smile could change your whole day around. We spent hours talking about life, our dogs, snowboarding, where we both wanted to be in 5 years. And quickly he became an amazing friend. We began communicating and spending more time together outside of the tattoo shop. I was devastated to hear he was moving to Maine to start his next chapter. Despite the distance, I never wanted to find a new artist. I appreciated him so much that I drove over 5 hours on multiple occasions for good conversation and tattoos just to be with him. Our time together was spent laughing, smiling, sharing stories, and watching movies with his sweet puppy Remington, who was only a few months old at the time. I stayed at his home in the middle of the woods in a state where I didn't know anyone but him, because I truly trusted Joseph more than anyone. I knew that I was safe as long as he was there. He has guided, supported, and consoled me during some of the most traumatic and vulnerable times of my life, and I'm grateful to have had him in my corner for all these years. Joseph has been raw and transparent since day one. Despite the heartache and challenges that he's shared with me over the years, he selflessly pushes to keep the mood light and comforting for anyone in the room. For 9 years, I have known Joseph to be kind, gentle, and considerate with everything he does. He would make sure your bills were paid, your heart was happy, and your belly was full, and he never asked for anything in return. Just knowing that his loved ones are happy and healthy means the world to him. He is real, he is human. Despite this tragic slip in judgment, Joseph will always be the kind, barefoot, gentle man that I spent those days and nights with, just laughing and trusting. Sincerely, Ivana Dober. Those are the only ones I'm reading. Judge, as the court knows, there was another one that was submitted that the court is not going to consider, partially because it was not able to be read online, and partially because the state is objecting to it.
Well, again, I think the state was not insisting on witnesses. I have thought of all of these more in the way of impact statements to paint a picture. As all the attorneys know, I can't consider any of them for the facts contained there in my sentencing decision. I can consider the impact, however, that this event has had on people's lives.
So in conjunction with these, Judge, we would like to show the court, and it's important to Mr. Ferlazzo, and I think to the court, to understand more of who he is, his artwork. We can show several of his drawings and tattoos, and we're ready to do that.
Okay. Seems to be all right. We will allow you to do that. How many do we have?
7.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about because the DOs who wrote it. Michelle Pacino is a probation officer.
Ms. Jantz, are you planning to have something that's in the evidence portal that can be,
No,
because right now there's no record being made of what these are.
I understand. But I think it's sufficient for today's purpose that the court see, it's not in the record, but that the court see some of his artwork.
All right, do you want to at least identify what we're looking at?
I can't, can you? What is this? Various people. So Mr. Ferlazzo is telling me that these are various tattoos on people that we're not identifying.
Okay.
That's it?
All right, thank you.